Okay. All right, gonna move this Rode mic to right in front of my face so that nobody yells at me anymore. Here we go. Started and it looks. Oh yeah, getting drunk at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday to own the libs. So let's talk about shitty apartments. In Los Angeles, where I live, you have a choice between either prohibitively expensive and safe and quiet, or a place that you can afford, that is probably somebody's like money laundering operation and is like dangerous and bad. I have only ever lived in the latter kind of apartment because I'm a poor person. Pause for the sound of airplane. We're gonna get to that in a minute. So the place that I live now is the second apartment that I've had in Los Angeles, and it's definitely the better of the two. My last place was so bad that it was kind of like a joke, like among my friends. There was no parking anywhere. I literally, if I invited somebody over, there were nights that somebody would circle my neighborhood for an hour before calling me and telling me that they just couldn't come because they couldn't find a place to park. And there's this elevator in it that was like Tower of Terror. Like you'd get in and it would like jolt, like it was gonna drop. It never actually dropped, but people got stuck in there a lot. There were times that I got stuck in there. There was a time that somebody got stuck in there for a really long time and I heard them screaming and I like ran to get help. Taking the elevator was like a bad idea. Still did it all the time, but taking the elevator was a bad idea. And it was just like a rough area of town. It was like the northeast corner of Koreatown, right on Beverly Boulevard. And so I would be awoken in the middle of the night a lot by motorcycles racing by at like 4 a.m. And I would be awoken by fights, which kind of happened at regular intervals, both in my apartment and on the street outside. In my apartment, there was one time a fight that broke out, I think on the floor below me. So I was on the 3rd floor, so I think it happened on the 2nd floor. And in the midst of this fight between these two guys, they both tumbled out the window onto the street below. They both lived, but I went downstairs, I think to go to work, and I got out on the street, on the sidewalk, and the paramedics were there holding together a guy's skull. And later on that night, when he was home from the hospital, I'm sure he just got bandaged up and returned home because none of us can afford health insurance. He got into a fight again, and the other guy who tumbled out the window with him started punching him in the head with his bandaged skull, and his girlfriend was like screaming and saying like, he's gonna die, he's gonna die. I'm getting emotional. That was like a regular thing that I lived with for a long time. And the final straw, I kind of made like, I made light of it the way that I do. I had a Facebook at the time, and I would like post these stories about like, another crazy thing happened in my apartment today. And that's kind of like how I live with fear. So the final straw happened one night at about 4 a.m. Another fight broke out in the street outside, and woke me up. And because at this point I was used to this kind of thing and had had to call the paramedics in the past to help somebody, I was like, all right, I'm just gonna sit up and keep an eye and an ear out, in case something happens and I need to call the paramedics again. And there was a guy that was yelling into a car. So it was just a verbal altercation with a guy leaning over, yelling at a guy who was in a red car. And the guy standing out on the street said something to the effect of, "You better get out of here, slur for a black person, or I'm going to shoot you." And he pulled a gun out and just like fired some warning shots in some directions. It was like very clearly a man who had had like no firearms training whatsoever, because he was just like, bah, 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 bah. I think it was like 4 of them. And yeah, it just like limp wristed everywhere into the sky. I don't think anybody got hurt, thank God. But the cops were called immediately. Like very quickly, my building was surrounded by helicopters, several police vehicles, and like probably like 20 police officers at least. I heard them on a loudspeaker telling a guy to get down on his knees, and it was like something out of a movie. He was spotlighted by the helicopters, and it was like a different guy who was just like walking out on the street at this point, coming up on 5 in the morning. So I fucking booked it downstairs, and as soon as I got down there, there was another woman there, and she looked me in the eye and she went, "That's not him." And I said, "I know." And we like ran over to the window and we were like getting the police officers' attention, and one of them came over and I said, "That's not the right guy." And the woman said, "I heard his voice and that's not the same voice." And I said, "I saw him and that's not him." And the police officer was like, will you make a report then? Will you make an official statement that I can include with this guy's case?" And the other woman was like, I don't deal with the police. Fair enough. And I was like, "I look like this, so I think I'm safe." And I filled out a report, and then I like went upstairs and added to the Facebook post that I had already started about this next crazy thing that happened in my apartment. And obviously this time, like, everybody was worried for me, you know, like I framed things like funny crazy thing that happened to me, but it was like pretty scary. And so I had a friend who lived in this apartment that I live in now, who, I don't know what that is, who was moving out. And he said, "Listen, when I moved into this place, I was friends with the people who lived here before. They very graciously left their security deposit and let me take over their lease, so I didn't have to pay a security deposit. And if you want to just move in right away without having to come up with money for a security deposit, I will do the same thing. I'll pay it forward." And I was like, amazing. So within 3 weeks, I was in this place, which is worlds better, like has added years on my life not being in that place that I was in before, but it's still not ideal, right? Like I sleep in the same room that I entertain guests in. When I first moved in, the oven didn't work, and I bugged them about it for about 1.5 years, and they kind of stonewalled me until they came back and said, "We've decided that we don't want to replace people's appliances anymore, so if you want an oven, you have to buy one yourself." So I did. Electricity and gas are included in the cost of rent, which is amazing, even though the cost of rent is still more than a week's salary before taxes for me. Not having to pay my energy bills separately makes a huge difference in my month. They do try to raise my rent during the summer because we're running our fans in the building. I just continue to pay what I've paid before, and I think the only reason they haven't like confronted me about it is because they did make me pay for my own oven. The kitchen is, I mean, if you saw the ACAB video, you've seen it. It's very small and there's no counter space, not because it's messy. I mean, it is messy, but like, that's not why. There just is no, they didn't build any counters. So if I want to chop vegetables, I have to put my chopping board on the sink, and I've lost a lot of meals and very nearly some toes that way. And I mean, the fact that I didn't have to pay a security deposit, saved me a lot of money, but puts me in a very vulnerable position as far as like my status here. During a global pandemic, I have been threatened with eviction several times because my downstairs neighbor hears my cats moving around at night. And I'm kind of like walking on eggshells with that situation. She also called the cops on me one time for, I had a friend over and we weren't like partying or anything. There was like no music, or we were just talking in my apartment on the couch at about 2 a.m, so it was really late. But she called cops. It's right next to a park, and sometimes gets very noisy. The building is an old 1920s building, so as has been pointed out in many of my videos, it sounds like a truck is driving by because you can hear the fan downstairs. You can hear somebody talking in an apartment next to me. The sound of LAPD helicopters is constant. The sound of leaf blowers is constant. And you know, I'm doing everything that I can. I've gotten a lot of complaints on my videos about the sound, and some of that is user error, some of that is me, but kind of some of it is also what I'm working with here. So like I upgraded to this very nice Rode mic that I've used in the last couple of videos, but I've still gotten complaints about the sound because ultimately, like, I'm working in a very splashy room where you can hear everything that's happening around me, and I'm kind of a novice, so my efforts in post-production to deal with that have sometimes resulted in maybe worse quality of sound than if I had just like uploaded it as is. Now that things are opening up a little bit more with the pandemic, I'm hoping that soon I'll be able to rent spaces rather than filming everything in my apartment. I have friends who do sound professionally that I could ask to help, but ultimately, like, I refuse to not pay them. And things like renting studio space and moving, maybe, those are all things that cost a lot of money. Friend of the channel, Kaylin Conrad, very graciously sent me their lav mic that they use. So I'm gonna get a new lav mic. It's gonna cost all of my Patreon subscription money for this coming month. And that's assuming like that people don't cancel their subscriptions before the month. I do have a guy that consistently like signs up at the $20 tier and then deletes it before he gets charged, which, like, honestly, I respect the scam. Like, do what you gotta do to get those videos a day early, right? So things will be getting better. Like, I promise that I know that you're frustrated with it, and believe me, like, I am all the more frustrated, and it doesn't, like, I know I'm very lucky that for the most part all of your comments have been, and emails have been in good faith, and you've been like trying to be very helpful. But know that, like, I'm aware of the problem, and I'm aware of the problem not just when I'm making videos, but like all the time. I'm kind of experiencing this like death by 1,000 cuts situation with my living situation. The constant sound of lawnmowers and LAPD helicopters and motorcycles driving by, and the guy across the alley from me who is running, I think, an illegal auto shop out of his garage, all of those sounds like come together to create this like hell ASMR for me. This like whatever the opposite of white noise is. Is it just noise? It's kind of slowly driving me insane. I recently went up to Astoria, Oregon with some family members. I grew up in Florida, which is a place that no one should ever live for any reason. But my mom's family is from that part of northern Oregon. It's kind of like where they all got off the boat from the old country. And I cried a little bit when I left. Like, just being in the quiet was so nice and like so safe feeling. I moved to Los Angeles in service of this dream of becoming an actor that I'm not sure is gonna be a reality. I like to perform. I'm going to continue to make videos even, you know, when I get waves of comments saying that they're not good. I guess I'm kind of asking for help. Not just with the channel, but also like maybe in the long run with life. In the short term, yes, I'm getting a lavalier mic that is of higher quality than the ones that I've used in the past that I've also gotten complaints about. That's going to take every penny that I have this coming month. But after that, you know, I plan on potentially renting spaces so that I don't have to record in here anymore, so that you guys don't have to hear the room sounds or the downstairs sounds or the in the street sounds. And in the long run, I would love to be able to afford to leave. I would. I really would. I would love to be able to afford somewhere quiet, somewhere stable where I'm not constantly being threatened with eviction for noisy cats. And somewhere where I don't sleep in the living room, and where there's room to cut vegetables. And somewhere where I can make the kind of content that you guys enjoy watching. You keep coming back because there's something that I'm doing right. I just want to be able to fix the things that I'm doing wrong. So I know I don't plug it enough, but if you go to patreon.com/littlehoot, it'd really fucking help me out. So far, since my channel became monetized in April, I haven't even made enough money from AdSense that they've like given me a payout yet. So that's given me nothing. And if enough of you give me $1 a month, maybe eventually I might be able to afford to either move into a quieter neighborhood in Los Angeles or maybe even leave. Maybe even be able to afford to quit my job and just move into a fucking private bunker in the woods where I can do nothing but create content. Thanks for listening to my sob story. Like, subscribe, and ring that bell.